over a mile, and I lifted up a little jar of Tabasco and talked about how much I like it. So this morning I'm going to talk about lobster tails with butter. I hope that everyone returns the favor by giving me some of those. I got 3 big bottles of Tabasco later that day. So today, lobster tails with butter. I read a book one time. It was called The Secret Life of Lobsters. And I didn't know it, but lobsters molt. They don't continue to grow. They just get so big and then they break out of their old shell, kind of like locusts, I guess. It's very rare to see this actually happening, but they grow by fits and starts. And so our passage today is about how the people of Israel grew. Those of us who are in the human family, we know that we don't all of a sudden molt and all of a sudden something new comes. But we grow gradually. We see our children grow up and we learn all sorts of skills, and it's a gradual thing. So as you heard Isaiah talking about the future, Isaiah, he lived in about 2,700 years ago. So it's always amazing to me that human nature hasn't changed a whole lot, and the essence of our relationship with God is intact. Isaiah was a prophet of the area when they were coming back to Israel from captivity in Babylon. And so it's a message of hope. It's a message of a new day. And I couldn't help but hear this without thinking about the sun will come up tomorrow. Bet your bottom dollar. Doesn't that sound about like the song? Harmony and understanding, sympathy and trust abounding. No more falsehoods or divisions. Golden living dreams of visions. Mystic crystal revelation and the mind's true liberation. This is the dawning of the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius. There you go. We could all sing that, right? Because we know it so well. It wasn't too long ago that we thought there was this great golden age that was about to dawn on us. Sometimes it's been called Hollywood. Sometimes it's been called the Big Apple. Sometimes it's been called the land of the midnight sun. Xanadu, Shangri-La, the American dream of home ownership. Perfect world through science that turns into Frankenstein. Now, I'm partly making a farce of some of these broken dreams, but you get the picture. It's that the age that we live in, it's a tough age. I was reading something from the year 1900, and they were proclaiming optimistically that the 20th century was going to be an age of reason, the age of science where everyone's life would become better. There was that unbridled optimism. But we can't just look ahead to some golden dream in the future, that we have to begin working in the present to have those dreams come true. Now, I wonder today if you can name the cartoon family who in their programs went to church more than any other family, was seen in church more than any other family. The Simpsons. The Simpsons, they were always in church. They always went to church. And Mr. Bean even went to church. Remember that great scene, Mr. Bean? But they were always poking fun at societal ethics, right? Now, we think this was kind of a bizarre cartoon, but actually, it was pretty mainstream. And you might remember our friend Homer, and I also remember Homer Simpson's advice to his son Bart in one of those episodes. He said to his son Bart, there are 3 rules of life. Number 1, cover for me. Number 2, good idea, boss. And number 3, it was like that when I got here. So Homer Simpson's attitudes toward life in general have to do with just getting by with as little as is necessary, right? Because life is hard, so you try to avoid all of the hard struggles that come with making a difference in the world. And the world today needs people with a spiritual vision. So how many people do we see today who are just getting by in life? They haven't been turned on to some kind of a greater vision of how life might be, of a pilgrim journey, right? To live in the light of God's love. And if you make your intention to love God and neighbor, there's no end to the blessings that you receive. We must accept finite disappointment, but never lose infinite hope. Martin Luther King was first and foremost a preacher, and whatever he said came out of our faith tradition. It was not an easy message because it was a message of struggle, of hardship, but also the promise if we do the things today, it will make a difference in the future. I know, because I see it every day, that when people suffer a loss of their dreams, they go into despair. There's a proverb that says, without vision, people perish. But Jesus said, the kingdom of heaven is wherever 2 or 3 people gather together in my name. Wherever they gather to struggle to make the dream come true. That's the kind of story we have. Listen to Isaiah. All the earlier troubles, chaos, and pain are things in the past. They're to be forgotten. So look ahead with joy. Anticipate what I'm creating. Now these words can speak to us in many different ways, but we have to let go of past failures. Well, we tried that once and it didn't work. You ever heard that before? To let go of past resentments. To walk into the future in faith. Now, our scars are bad, but they're also good. And one thing that I've learned in ministry is that you have to preach to pain. You have to preach about pain because it's in our pain and our failures that our success can come as we move into the future. Because we say, look what we've overcome. I learned so many lessons by that terrible thing that happened. Shaped my life. I hear that people say those things. For the church that I served in Springfield, we did 125th anniversary while I was there. One of the things, they didn't have hardly anything in our archive. Not like your Trinity. We've got a lot of stuff in our archive. So much we couldn't get through all of them, actually, in a whole year. But there, the one thing that they kept was from a story about their church being a downtown church and it burned down. And they talked about, so many members would talk to me about, they went downtown and they saw their church burning down, how terrible it was. And the only thing they were able to pull out of there were 2 wooden offering plates that were charred on the edges. And they kept those 2 wooden offering plates with the charred space on it to help them to remember where they came from. And they built a larger church on the outskirts of town. Through that pain, they became a congregation. Through that pain, they began to rethink their mission and their ministry, and they were able to do it. I know a lot of people, a lot of you have those 2 offering plates with the burnt places on it. I know that you have something in your home or something in your life you carry around with you that reminds you of that scar that gives you the energy to move ahead into the future. It's really great for us to celebrate 200 years. We learn a lot about how ministry was here and then. But I can tell you that the reality is that people in churches that thrive live toward the future. And they have plans for the future. And they plan in the present moment for that future that they want. And they have a vision. So today I want to talk about the marshmallow challenge. Does anybody know what the marshmallow challenge is? Okay. I think a lot of us go through life like this, right? We get he's the one that did the Stanford prison experiments. And he also had a colleague who did the marshmallow challenge, and that is that they would take children who were preschool age to kindergarten, and they would set a plate in front of them. You see a little marshmallow in front of that boy? He's sat there for 15 minutes, and they told him that if he can keep from eating that marshmallow, he'll get 2 more. But if he eats it, that's all he gets. So what do you think the odds of that are? Preschool kids with a marshmallow in front of them. What are the odds? What are the odds? 30%. You can hold out and wait to get the extra marshmallows. And what they did was a 14-year study. And they tracked all these kids until they were entering college. And the children who were in the group who could stop themselves from eating the marshmallow and had some, what we call delayed gratification, scored much higher on IQ tests and graduate tests, and they did much better academically. Because they could sacrifice, they learned how to sacrifice in the present for a larger goal in the future. Now, some people say that all of religion is delayed gratification. It's encouraging people to look ahead a little bit and to take the good stuff a little bit later. So Tony Zimbardo has got a great book. It's called The Time Paradox, and then he talks about the marshmallow test. And he says this, I think we need to pay attention to. Number one, and this is pretty interesting, time is one of the most powerful influences on our thoughts, feelings, and actions. Yet we're usually totally unaware of the effect of time on our lives. Paradox number 2. Each attitude toward time, or time perspective, past, present, future, is associated with benefits. Yet if you focus too much on one or the other, it has even greater costs. Paradox 3. Individual attitudes toward time are learned through your personal experiences. Yet, as a whole, our attitudes toward time can influence national destinies. I went to a workshop when I was on sabbatical, and it was the changes driving the church. And the man who led that claimed that the advent of instant credit in the 50s changed our perspective on having things now rather than delaying gratification in the future. But if we stay too much in the present, we're not going to pay attention to the future. Think about all of the things that happen in our society, that we have to make short gains in the short term, but yet we don't plan long term. Think about what having things now has done to our environment and created a situation where we want to be able to have these things now, but we know that the environment is eroding because of them. Think about spirituality, how we can't take time to do spiritual things because we can't see the benefits in the present. So a lot of people argue religion is about knowing what to do now so that we come out differently in the future. And here's Isaiah, and I want to invite you to join with me when we get to the bold print. For I am about to create new heavens and a new earth. The former things shall not be remembered or come to mind, but be glad and rejoice forever in what I am creating. For I am about to create Trinity as a joy and its people as a delight. I will rejoice in Trinity and delight in my people. No more shall the sound of weeping be heard in it, or the cry of distress. What did you notice? I changed it a little bit, right? Feels different. It feels different. You say Jerusalem, Israel. You can put yourself in it, right? I will rejoice in you. Be the delight of my people. It's the word of the Lord. Isaiah was Jesus' favorite book of the Old Testament. For I am about to do a new thing. God changed the rules, maybe. You know, do you ever think about this? That God maybe is always moving the goalpost a little bit further down for you. Trying to get you to go a little bit further and take it down the field. That the United Church of Christ, God is still speaking. God speaks to us often. Ways that sometimes we don't understand, sometimes through our pain. What if we looked at life that way? What would we do if we were given a choice? Sometimes we have such a positive past that we never live out of it, and we remember those things and we don't move on into the future. There are some times that we live so much in the present that we don't think about the future. But if we don't plan in the present, if we don't have a vision, if we don't have an intention for doing good things, for what it is that makes for the good life, then we just stay on the treadmill. I will create Jerusalem as a joy and its people a delight. Create joy. Creating joy. This is coming up closer than we know. And all the stores have reminded us of it in October. Did you notice that? This is the message of the season. Creating joy. Last week, talked about the psalm, joy to the world. What if our country would look at its mission as joy to the world? What if you looked at your life in this life? That your day begins by thinking joy to the world. What would happen to the mission of the church? And where would we be and what would we do if we looked at our mission as bringing joy to the world? That's what Isaiah said. Creating joy. Now the words of Isaiah are timeless. They're almost 3,000 years old. He said to us, all the earlier troubles, all the chaos, all the pain, those are things of the past, and they'll be forgotten. Look ahead with joy.